Nerd Rage Renegades.
Punisher finally hits Netflix. Chief and I are excited, and Charles Manson is dead. We are here with the Nerd Rage Renegades, and Turkey Day is coming, and what great news we've had all week long leading up to the day that Chief and I go into food comas for about a week.
Yeah, I'm having at least 2 dinners, I think.
Oh, hey, Lance. Oh, hey, Bob. You gonna cook me, Bob? Yeah, Lance. Why don't you drink the absinthe, Bob?
I got a 20-pound Lance in the freezer.
Oh, I got something like that too, man. I went to the grocery store with the kids to pick up the turkey, and the daughter was like, "I want that one. I want like the big turkey, right?" I'm like, "Oh, that looks like Lance." And I look at the tag, and it's like this turkey is $30. I'm like, $30 for a fucking turkey? What the fuck? Well, I'm like, I don't know. Maybe you should go a little bit smaller. I mean, that's $30 turkey, and she's like, "But Dad, I really want that one." So I'm looking at the the little tag that has like the per weight pound shit like that. I turn it over and it said, "With your Kroger card, this turkey is only $9.99. I'm like, wait a minute, you telling me I use my card, I can get $20 off this big fucking turkey? I was like, Lance, you're coming home with me.
We got a free one. My wife's work gave everybody that works with her 20-pound turkeys.
Did they have to shoot it first?
No.
Oh,
they're
good.
Really nice frozen turkeys.
Oh yeah, with all the giblets.
Yeah. I don't know if you didn't see the new Bob's Burgers, did you?
Not yet. I've been binge watching Frank. I finished it. Ladies and gentlemen, the first Netflix show that's come out that I've actually finished before a show that we're talking about it on. So big deal for me.
Yeah, I finished it. When was it? Yesterday afternoon, I think.
Yeah. It was man.
Yeah.
But
it's a really hardcore one.
It's hardcore.
There's a lot of blood. It's just blood
Yeah.
and zip ties.
Well, before we get into Frank, because that's going to be the bulk of the show, we also have Doomsday Clock we're going to have to talk about in a little while. But
are we allowed to talk about that now?
We
or
are.
Is that,
Yes, we are, because it will go up. That will hit Wednesday on shelves. So yes, we'll be able to talk about it. But first, let's talk about the news around the world. Charles Manson is dead at the age of 83.
Yeah.
Of course, Chief thought he died like a year ago.
Yeah, I thought that he did. Didn't he have some kind of medical something?
Yeah, he went in January this year. He went in like the hospital and was like really sick and shit. But now the beast is dead.
Oh, okay. Well, I must have been when he was in the hospital. I thought he died.
Now,
also, Della Reese of Touched by an Angel died.
And Malcolm Young of AC/DC.
Yeah.
A lot of deaths this week. I'm not defending the guy. I would never defend Charles Manson. But I do want to point out a lot of people on Twitter, including major news outlets, are labeling him a serial killer. I don't, the man is
a cult killer, right?
Well, the man's an evil. He was. We can say that now. He was an evil creature. But serial killer, no. He, as far as we know, no evidence ever pointed to him actually doing any of the killings. Leslie Van Houten, Susan Atkins. I mean, yeah, they all took out the killings, but not really so much Manson. Manson was never confirmed to have been there. Well, maybe he was confirmed to have been there, but he was never confirmed to have actually killed any of them. So the label of serial killer, I don't think, fits.
Didn't he do some dirt when he was a kid? Like, go to jail for a while?
He was in jail and out of jail. He wrote songs with Dennis Wilson. But I was thinking about it today.
Lived with him for a while, I guess.
And what's really weird is just 2 days before he dies, he died on Sunday. 2 days before he dies, Leslie Van Houten, one of the killers, one of the people who actually committed the killings, was granted parole, Chief.
Yeah.
Now of course, that parole goes
The
under.
legal system, you know. What are
Well,
you gonna do?
now that parole does have a 120-day, review process. So they could say, you know what, fuck it, no, you're not getting out.
Yeah, give her a chance to kook it up a little bit.
But they say she's a model.
Yep.
She's a model inmate. She got 2 degrees while she was in there and was teaching classes, whatever. But everybody was like, I wonder what his followers think. I wonder what his followers are going to do. Most of his followers disavowed him. They didn't want nothing to do with him. Squeaky Frome is gone to ground. She's out of jail. She's not in jail anymore, but she's like off the radar. And Susan Good was the last one that I know of that was like hardcore still, hey, Charlie, give me the D. But we haven't really heard much from her since like 2001. So as far as his followers go,
Do you think there was any truth to that, or they just like being in the spotlight for having been a part of that?
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there. And then Bryan Cranston comes out, today and says that him and his brother or cousin used to go riding horses at the ranch where the Manson family stayed, and he met Charles Manson, and they wanted him to become part of the family. Now, I don't know the validity of Bryan Cranston saying, hey, I was almost in the Manson family. I mean, crazy shit's going on in Hollywood right now. Everybody's accused of something. So now, Bryan Cranston was almost a member of the notorious Manson family.
Well,
instead, he went and started making meth in a RV in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, as Malcolm's dad.
Malcolm's dad making meth. They lure you in. There was that episode of
Breaking
Cleveland
Bad
Show.
is good though. I won't lie. It's a good show. I liked it a lot.
There's an episode of Cleveland Show where they're watching Breaking Bad, and one guy's like, but this show has adult situations, and Cleveland Jr.'s like, they lure you in because it's Malcolm's dad.
No, I really liked that. I liked Breaking Bad a lot. I thought it was pretty amazing show, really.
But now I have to figure out which killer cult leader who's still alive I have to start looking at next, because Charles Manson is now dead, and my wishes of actually interviewing that man just to figure out what he's about are now dashed. Not that I'm the next Geraldo Rivera. I'm opening up frickin' Al Capone's vault again, that whole thing. So who am I?
I think Manson was interviewed in and out enough. He told what he was gonna tell by now.
Hey, the BTK killer's still alive, right? I could probably go after that guy.
I wouldn't even want to be in a room with that guy. That guy's he's a huge monster of a guy too. From what I can tell.
Keep him chained. Don't give him any adrenaline after you beat the shit out of him, because if you give him adrenaline, he's gonna beat the shit out of you and gouge your eyes out.
Oh man, were you just like, oh yeah?
Okay, let's cut the bullshit. Let's talk about Frank. Let's talk about Frank Castle, the Netflix series that Chief and I have been waiting for, because this is a story of a man. This is not a story of a superhero. This is not the story of someone with superpowers. This is a man.
The Punisher, first of all, has always been one of my favorites. I've always had a soft spot in my heart for Frank, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
As I've always said, Frank Castle is the answer to all questions.
He is.
I've said that for years.
Him and his saw. And that squad
right.
and that squad automatic weapon, not like a saw, squad automatic weapon.
But man, I thought that they nailed Punisher for this.
Like, they knocked it out of the park.
The way he operates, the way he when he has Micro in his ear on a mission. That's what I was waiting for, that moment, that first moment where he goes on a mission with Micro along with him, and with the earpiece and telling him where to go and all that shit with the drone. And I was like, that was pretty badass. And it didn't set anything up for the future. Really, like, well, it kind of did, but I mean, I thought it was just a good standalone Punisher story. That's something that the Punisher would do. That's a scenario Frank Castle would get into, I think.
So I really so being a Marine. And I told Chief about this. There was only one aspect that I kind of didn't like about the show, and that was some of the ways they portrayed post-traumatic stress disorder. Because as someone who has PTSD, it really did seem like especially with Lewis Wilson, the character Lewis Wilson, they went to the ultimate extreme. And basically, I read that they basically modeled that guy after Timothy McVeigh. And the whole series. So you at the beginning, I wasn't really sure because it seemed like they had two stories going on. They had Frank's story, and then the story of this kid, which eventually came together. But I was like, what's up with this kid? And at first I'm thinking, well, he's Army, he's disgruntled, he wants, he thinks America's failed him. I thought maybe this was going to turn into the character Nuke from the Daredevil and Captain America comics. That's what I thought he was going to become originally, and I thought at some point he was going to use cami paint and maybe paint the American flag on his face like Nuke has. Not the case. But I was watching it and I was kind of like, well, and I saw news reports flash about my feeds of, oh, he's the character that makes everything great about this show. No, he doesn't. Fuck you, whoever wrote that piece of garbage trash. But I wasn't really enthralled with the Lewis Wilson character, that he's that manipulated. He's that, the stuff that happened to him. He's that manipulated. He's gonna start bombing things.
Well, I wouldn't, I'd be lying if I said that every scene was necessary. I mean, there were a couple of the bone-in scenes that we didn't really need.
No, those were necessary. Those were absolutely necessary.
I mean, as far as it advanced the story, but I mean, the real story, that kid didn't have any other purpose but to serve some political point in the show. And, but aside from that, the side with Frank, the Frank side,
was fantastic.
What I like about it, Frank's politics are pretty simple.
Oh, yeah.
That's why I like Frank. Frank is a black and white kind of guy. He's like, this is the way it is, and this is what I'm going to do. And then he also breaks that code, I guess, when he starts caring about certain people.
And I love it because Micro's there, and Micro is telling him, we should go to, what if we go to Madani? What if we do this? What if we do that? And Frank's like, no, we kill them all. Everybody dies. And Micro's like, are you sure? He's like, everybody dies. No, I'm not talking about this. Everybody fucking dies.
Bernthal as Frank Castle is just right on. And I was talking to my wife, and I said, you had the goofy Dolph Lundgren Punisher, and then you had the fairly decent Thomas Jane Punisher, which I thought was actually a pretty decent version of the Punisher.
It was decent. Nowhere near as brutal as Bernthal.
No, not at all. It was at the time. It was at the time. I thought, wow, this is a pretty hardcore movie. But then you had that Warzone or whatever the fuck that was. That was
with
more
Ray
cartoony.
Stevenson, and the really weird looking Jigsaw.
Yeah, it was like more cartoony, more comic booky version of the Punisher. And then it's like you've had all those, and like Thomas Jane is clearly the best out of all those. And then Bernthal comes along, Daredevil season 2, and he's just nailing Frank Castle in that season. And then this came out, and it's like, man, he is just the most, and he's just a vicious Punisher. He's not fucking around.
Oh, no.
And he will beat you to death with his bare hands. He doesn't need anything. He doesn't need a big gun. He'll beat you to death with his bare hands.
And like I said, he's not, even Daredevil has an iota of superpowers with the way he can hear things and things like that. Then you had Jessica Jones, who has the super strength and everything. Luke Cage, Unbreakable Skin, Danny Rand with the Iron Fist, the Chi. But then you have Frank. Frank has guns and his military training, and Frank gets the shit kicked out of him multiple times in this series. He's on death's door multiple times. He's got to get sewn up, stitched up, an arrow cut out, like an arrowhead, his body cut open to get an arrowhead out.
He seriously almost dies more than a few times.
Oh yeah, I mean, there is more blood in this series than I think any of the other Netflix series. And we thought Daredevil was pretty brutal when Wilson Fisk kept slamming that car door on the dude's head in season 1 of Daredevil. This I mean, people are getting there. I mean, my favorite scene, I loved when they went into the bunker to take out Frank, and Frank takes out an entire squad by himself. That is just fantastic.
Well, I think it's the beginning of that episode. Is it